Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of City Speak. I'm your host, Clarence E. Anthony, CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. And today, we are just building off the momentum that we just came off of the 100th anniversary celebration in Tampa, Florida, of the National League of Cities. It was so amazing. And a lot of the things that we were talking about during the conference, we really focused on how we are doing today, but yet the major focus was the future of cities. And today we're going to talk about and discuss electric vehicles. Yeah, not the ones that are going to be flying around like some of my members talked about, like the Jetsons. Yeah, that may be some of what we visualize. But the future of transportation in our cities, towns, and villages is something that we need to talk about. And we have today invited two powerful guests to dive deep into this topic with us. Our first guest is Councilmember Michael Cacciotti, a longtime elected leader from Pasadena, California. The councilman was elected into office in 2001 and really has had a positive impact on his community in California as well, being the Deputy Attorney General, where he created an air show, served on the South Coast Air Quality Control Council of Governments, and find time to coach, man. But most importantly, he kind of grew up and was hung out in Florida, my home state. So Councilman and I have something in common. Councilman, welcome to City Speak with Clarence Anthony.
A pleasure, Clarence. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting discussion. In addition, our second guest is Dain Giesie, the Vice President of Business Development with Enterprise Mobility. Dain is an expert in transportation and electric vehicle infrastructure. Enterprise Mobility is more than a hometown car rental outlet. They're helping communities overcome their transportation challenges. And so I look forward to this conversation because our members really do need to hear from two experts in the field. Dain, thank you so much for being here.
Clarence, thanks for having me.
We're lucky to have you two, both the City of Pasadena and Enterprise Mobility. This is all about the fact that these two companies and local government sort of partnered to make sure that the first electrified police fleet in the country was created. And that is going to be so interesting to our elected officials. So I'm going to start with you, Councilman, because we know from my days as a former mayor in Florida, nobody wants to be first, right? Nobody wants to say, I'm going to be the first local government to really electrify my police, especially the police department. Let's get to know a little bit about you and how you are able to get Pasadena to really take this first step. Talk about yourself and how you became a public official, got involved.
Clarence goes back to my days in Florida. Grew up in Miami, Florida, just south of West Palm Beach, and was always very active at the local church, local community center, coaching. And I was one of the youngest coaches in soccer. Actually, I volunteered coaching for my senior year, and then after that, went to national coaching schools, became United States Soccer Federation national coach, youngest high school coach, and one of the youngest college coaches in the nation, coaching St. Thomas University in Miami and Monsignor Edward Pace High School. And that's really going to come in later in our discussion about people exercising, playing outside, and having to inhale dangerous emissions from vehicles, different types of transportation. But after coaching for a couple of years, 3-4 years at the college level, decided to go to law school. So I unfortunately left the beautiful state of Florida, went out to California, and went to law school, And right after law school, graduated and got back into public service right away. Got a job with the Speaker Pro Tem of the California State Assembly, Mike Roos, back in 87 through 91. Worked in the Capitol down in Los Angeles. Got involved in Meals on Wheels volunteering and started coaching again, but this time just volunteering my time in youth. It's called the American Youth Soccer Organization. I was coaching there, still coaching, volunteering my time from 1995 through last year. I had a hip injury this year, so I couldn't run with the 18-year-old boys, but still coaching. And this, as I did this, and then I got a job after the assemblyman with California Department of Transportation, defended estate lawsuits, and then transferred over to the Attorney General's office, where I prosecuted professionals from accountants to barbers and cosmetologists, contractors, auto repair dealers, nurses that did something wrong to hurt the public. But this is where I really got involved in electric transportation. When I was prosecuting my first case against a smog check station, that was, in California, we got it every year or so. You got to check your vehicle, make sure the emissions coming out are clean, get the catalytic converters working. So I prepared for my first case in 2001. I hired experts from the Bureau of Automotive Repair, ex-Chevy, General Motors, Chrysler mechanics, and I had medical people come in to really explain what the harmful effects of vehicle emissions were by these small little local smog check stations passing dirty, polluting cars. When I learned that those emissions coming out of our vehicles, which I didn't really know before, I was an intelligent guy, most of my friends didn't know, that nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, and it was diesel particulate matter, which can go through your blood-brain barrier. I personally got rid of my Audi and got the ugliest car that was out there. It was a Toyota Prius, you might recall, in 2002. And with that ugly car, I lost a girlfriend, and I got a good car, low emissions. And I started with that. After a couple of years, I started getting the city involved. We started getting hybrids. As it got a little better, the technology, we started getting plug-in hybrids. I'll stop right there, but that kind of is a little background, laying a foundation for how we ultimately are going to get to these electric vehicles. Thanks, Clarence.
No, thank you, Councilman. It's always a story about a relationship that causes us to be in places. And the other thing about having this discussion, we get a chance to know you not as a council member, but as a person. And we got another connection. I know St. Thomas Aquinas well because I really grew up in Belle Glade, Florida, where Glade Central High School used to come and beat you guys. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. That's a rivalry. Dain, I must tell you, once we got a partnership with Enterprise Mobility, I dug deeper into the fact that you guys really are more than a rental car company. I mean, you've been working and doing great work in the, I'd say, mobility space for over 65 years. And one of the areas that you focused on is cities, because I would think transportation is one of the most pressing issues that we're facing all over America. Tell our listeners a little bit more about what the work looks like and why you feel it's important to partner directly with cities as a company, but also personally. Why is this so important?
Sure. And Clarence, first of all, again, thank you for having me. I want to say congratulations on what I hear was a really, really successful event last week in Tampa. So congratulations on that. I know how much work you all put into having that.
Well, Dain, let me tell you, your Chrissy Taylor was a big hit on the fireside chat. She brought the house down, and she told me that you were just going to keep it going on this podcast. So we're excited to talk with you.
Great. Well, I love those no pressure type statements right there, huh? Listen, again, thanks for having me. And yeah, I think that we've been focused on our customer and our employees from the very beginning as the North Star. And so as from the day that I started in this company, and I'm not a unique story. I came to Enterprise right out of college. Most of us were college athletes and looking around for, what was next for us in life. And I was very lucky and found a friend who had a sibling who worked at the company and told me how I would be perfect for this company and I was the right fit. And what I didn't know until much later was there was a $500 employee referral bonus that employee is the reason I was so perfect. So to this day, she's still with the company and she still has that recliner that she bought with that bonus. So that was 23 years ago. And the thing that has never changed is that our customers are at the center of all of our recommendations, everything that we do. So regardless of if it is a day trip for somebody going for training somewhere, if it's a rental vehicle because you were in an accident or you're going on vacation, or we're helping these small and medium-sized businesses with their fleet needs, it's all about what's best for the customer. And if we take care of our customers and we help them achieve their objectives, and we focus on our employees and giving them the tools to do that, then we're going to have a long-term sustainable business. And that's what the Taylors have built. And that's a consistent story that you talk to anybody in this company, anywhere in the globe, and customers are going to be at the center of that conversation.
Yeah, Dain, thank you for sharing that story, because a lot of your colleagues that I have worked with and got to know and have been with the company over 30 something years started at a site renting cars. And it's a really good story and obviously a great company with a great culture. I want to ask you a little bit more to dive into the conversation around EVs, an issue that more cities are getting involved in. Tell us about the ways that Enterprise Mobilities works with local leaders to help move the needle on electrification, and why and how they decided, especially a city like South Pasadena, decided to pilot such an initiative.
Going back to, we embrace the transition to electrification as a company, but also understand the importance of keeping what's most important, which is the customer at the center of that. Municipalities look to electrify for a whole host of reasons, depending on where they are in the country and what's going on within their organization. And it's really important for us to understand that and then help them along their journey. What that means is helping them understand the impact that electrifying is going to have on their operation, to both help and also the disruption that's going to be created. Every municipality that we work with is focused on the same things, which is making sure that they provide critical services to their residents, making sure that they provide a safe working environment for their employees, and then ensuring that they're good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And so helping them as their trusted advisor implement these plans that both achieve those core objectives while also advancing the initiatives that they have is really, really important. And that means that helping them along the journey and understanding what the electrification journey is so they can make the best decisions possible for their organization. That's a question of what can be electrified based on data, based on how you use your fleet, what your fleet is required to do. Which one of those vehicles can be electrified both now and then in some period in the future? The next question is, how would you electrify those? You have to think about charging, you have to think about power availability, you have to think about work schedules. And it's really important that you overlay those two things together so that the municipality can make a good decision for their organization at that point in time. And then it's a function of executing on that plan and then managing and optimizing that plan as it moves forward. If somebody puts an electric vehicle in service in a duty cycle that it cannot be successful, that sets electrification back at least 9 years, if not longer, because they're not going to look at that particular vehicle to electrify for at least 2 more cycles. And if we make sure that we're putting the right vehicles in place to be successful, then we will accelerate the path towards electrification within that organization. So that's what we're really focused on.
Thanks very much for that, Dan, because you've led me to the question that I sort of shared at the beginning with the council member. Council member, South Pasadena Police Department is the first in the nation to have a fully electrified law enforcement agency. And I applaud you for that, being the first, because in public sector, you're cautious about being the first. I'd like to talk a little bit about how did you bring the city as well as the community along? Tell us about the process of involving community members in your decision making.
Clarence, and this goes back a little bit what I'd mentioned before when I got into council in 2001. There weren't electric vehicles then. We started with hybrids. And as years went by, we had a low emission vehicle purchase policy to purchase whatever the cleanest vehicles were. At the time, they were hybrid. There was some CNG, compressed natural gas. As years progressed, and we started hosting clean air car shows around 2007 and 8. And then we're getting better plug-in hybrids, showing the community, getting people, partners in the community involved what this technology was. Very few people knew about it. BMW sent a bunch of BMW Mini Coopers, which were all electric. The backseat was a battery. We get a free lease for a number of the cities I represented on the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I represent 34 cities in LA County, 2 million people. I got a lot of these vehicles from my elected officials and community groups to try for 2 years for free. And then we worked with Cal State Los Angeles. They have a EcoCar 3 national program run by GM and Chevy. We gave them some money to convert a Chevy Camaro into a plug-in electric pursuit vehicle just to see if it could be done, and it could be done. And then Ford came out with a Ford Fusion hybrid, plug-in hybrid. We tested that at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana. And finally, around 2020, 21, Tesla comes out with this Model Y vehicle. And I've got a chief that's open to new technologies, a sergeant that's excited. I had a Tesla for a year and a half. I brought it, let him test it out. The chief loved it. The sergeant loved it. We started doing our homework. And they've been doing homework because I've been pushing for alternative vehicles for years, and the council majority been supporting it. So it was a long process, a lot of community involvement, a lot of volunteer commissions supported it. When we called around, and there was a couple dozen police agencies that had done 1 or 2 vehicles. We spoke to chiefs. They loved it. Some had bought them for themselves personally. They loved the Tesla Model Y so much, or the Model 3. And then we came to the community, went through our commissions. Public Safety Commission supported it. Our Natural Resources Environmental Commission supported it. Community groups like the Sierra Club, Coalition for Clean Air, loved it. So we brought that, but we knew there had to be parallel. It was not just getting a fleet, but you got to get the infrastructure. In the long term, we also wanted to create like a microgrid where we had solar energy storage so we could plug into all the beautiful sun here, like we have in Florida and California, and really make it a microgrid in the city, a really model project that any city, small town, school district around our nation could replicate. So we needed the vehicles fast. Our police fleet, we're a small city, 26,000 people, typical in America. We had 20 some vehicles. And the last time we'd ordered a police vehicle clearance from Ford, it took 2.5 years. And our fleet was at end of life. So we reached out to Enterprise, and I dealt with them before at the South Coast Air District, where we have 1,000 employees, needed a few hundred cars. They came through fast and effective and efficiently, great customer service. So we worked with them. And boy, before we knew it, in a few months, we had 10 Tesla Model 3s on staff, and we had all our other vehicles. The internal combustions were falling apart. They were in the shop costing us tens of thousands of dollars, eating up the gas, polluting our neighborhoods as they patrolled the streets. Enterprise came through quickly. We found an upfitter, Unplugged, which worked for Tesla, actually worked for Tesla's race team, just a few miles south of us here in Los Angeles County. They were on board. We started transitioning the entire fleet. And after the council brought on board, the community brought on board, within a year or so, last July of this year, several months ago, the entire fleet was there, and it's been operating with the incredible help of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, our support from the community. Again, there's, with any police fleet, I talked to the sergeant. He said, Mike, this is going to be a little hard sell because the officers can't even agree on where to go to lunch, let alone get a car. And it's true, they liked the Dodge Charger. They had a Ford Crown Vic. They had the Ford Explorers, Yukons. But I'd say 80% now, we've been in operation several months, 80% offer, 85% love it. The only issues are with some of the bigger guys over 6'6" getting in a Model Y is a little challenging. Clarence, we got money from the Southern California Edison. They paid for the installation of our entire infrastructure, saw cutting our parking lots, installing the electrical grid underneath, upgrading your grid so we could have all this power rushing into these vehicles. We got a grant from the Mobile Source Air Pollution Reduction Committee, which is part of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, for transformative transportation projects to be the first in the nation, because they've been trying to get public safety, law enforcement to convert, and it was the toughest brick to break. And we broke in, and we're doing it. And there's, police agencies, mayors all around LA County getting calls. After I spoke at the 100th anniversary, Clarence, I've been getting calls from Ohio, all over the nation, interested in this program. And it's just, again, with our partners, we couldn't have done it alone. We couldn't have done it without Enterprise, without Southern California Edison, without the South Coast AQMD, without Unplugged. You got to upfit these police vehicles so they're ready for police pursuit, patrol. So we're really excited about it. But again, without getting the community involved and get their support, I'll tell you the truth. Of our 5 council members, 3 had never been in an electric car. 3 didn't understand the difference between an electric car and a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid. So they're quick learners. We took them on test drives. They drove the car. I took the officers personally. I had 5 in 3 in the back and 1 in the front, flying down the old Pasadena freeway at 70 miles an hour with the cops back there. And once they felt that acceleration, they never went back. They loved it. So the performance, the fact each vehicle will save $4,000 a year just in fuel costs, not counting the fact that operational costs. Let me give you one more example, Clarence. Remember that Prius I told you I got about? My girlfriend left me, ugliest car in the market?
Yeah.
I still got it. It's my experimental car. That is at 185,000 miles now. 3 months ago, for the first time, I changed the brakes at 182,000 miles. That was
Wow.
the first regenerative braking system. Tesla's now is light years ahead of that. They're regenerative braking. You may never have to change brakes. Gas savings, brake savings, just regular repairs, half the number of parts on a vehicle. So it's really exciting.
Michael, I got to ask you a personal question. I mean, you held on to that Prius. Have you gotten over that breakup yet? Because I feel like something's happening here. You okay?
I did, but that's on my experimental car. I have a bike, I take the train, and I also have a Kia EV6. So don't worry, I'm okay.
You're okay. Dain, what are the first things a city leader should be thinking about and questions they have as they transition or think about transitioning to this journey of EV world?
So, Councilman, I want to compliment you and congratulate you, because the thing that's unique about your program over some of the others that we're involved in around the country is not only the transition now, but the thought that went into the sustainability of that program, with bringing the advocacy on board, with getting the officers to drive that vehicle and to understand that that vehicle is probably a superior driving experience to what they've been involved with before, to make sure that there's upfitting so that the vehicle is equipped to do the job that they need it to do. And frankly, head trash gets in the way of that really, really often. And sometimes people don't think through it. I have seen examples of trying to electrify police fleets across the country when nobody gave any consideration to the needs to what officers carry, whether that's firearms or medical equipment or canines, and so finding that upfitter and getting everybody on board, and then upgrading your power infrastructure so that not only can you electrify the fleet that you have today, now you can scale that program to the rest of the vehicles in your fleet, both now and into the future, which we believe, delivering on an outstanding customer experience is the first thing that's that you need to focus on when you're thinking about electrifying your fleet. The second one is making sure that you have power and charging viability, and to take that in-house and ensure that you own that is really impressive and pretty unique. And then as you start thinking about how do you support equitable electric future, so as your constituents start electrifying their vehicle, how can you make this robust network that you're building, both with current availability of power and contingency thought around the batteries and the storage, and when you deal with disasters out there? It's just such a well thought out program, and there's no question that it's going to be successful. And Clarence, to go back to your original question, I'd say I think about those things. What's the customer experience? Who is your customer? Is your customer the police officers? Is your customer the workers? Who is your customer? And then start building that persona out. How do they use that vehicle today? Will a replacement vehicle work for them? And if the answer is no, let's think creatively and think about how we can retask vehicles and think about how we can reimagine that position while not making the job harder and still doing those things that we talked about earlier, which is providing the critical services for the residents and doing that safely. So I think he goes back to the driver. And then because we also know that more and more product options are coming online every year. So as we really understand who our drivers are and what the limitations are, as new products hit the road, then you're able to respond to that really, really quickly. And then that goes back to that accelerating the path for acceleration.
Now, this may seem like it's way ahead of time, as we look at EV vehicles and transportation. But Councilmember, I wanted to ask you, for most cities, this is going to be like, wow, innovative. But what's next in terms of transportation innovation in South Pasadena? What are you considering?
Clarence, let me just step back a little bit. We've been the first on a number of things. So back in 2017, we've been the first, talking about electrification, the first city in the nation also to actually electrify our entire commercial electric lawn maintenance of our entire city, our soccer fields, baseball fields. Everything's maintained by electric equipment because that's a mobile source of pollution. Like a car, you're driving that big 72-inch lawnmower cutting the grass. We did that. In other cities, Pasadena City College, the largest junior college in our state, Mount San Antonio College, 500 acres is electrified. Then we took a Tesla battery, talk about the technology. What happens, people talk about, I got the question at the conference actually in Tampa, gentleman from, I forget what state it was, he said, what do you do when those batteries go bad? Well, I told him about my Prius. It was guaranteed for 10 years. It lasted 130,000 miles. But we took a Tesla battery that it wasn't able to use in a Tesla car. We took it to our golf course, and we had a problem with our greens mower, so we converted it from diesel, put those Tesla batteries in. Clarence, that was 6 years ago. It's still running every single day.
Wow.
But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take things like that. I've been working with Tesla West Coast to install Tesla DC level 3 superchargers at one of our locations, one of our pavilions, Trader Joe's. So we're looking at that very soon. Our fire department, we've met with a couple of companies out of Wisconsin about an electric fire truck. There's one or two in the region. I don't know, it was a different company out of Europe, didn't go well. But this company was here a couple months ago. I met with them. A couple of our fire departments in the local cities that work as a group, we have mutual aid. They met, they were impressed. So we purchased a huge fire truck, which is several $100,000. It's not going to be gas or diesel where our firefighters and the people in the neighborhood have to, the moment it takes off, you just black fume of smoke like the old bus, the school buses used to do. So we're looking at transitioning our entire fleet of public safety to electric very soon. And now, as my role, not only as a council member, but as a South Coast Air Quality Management District vice chair now of the entire 4-county district of Southern California, we're electrifying, doing pilot projects with electric locomotives, not the long haul, but regional haul from the ports out to San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange County. We've had a pilot project with heavy-duty trucks, Daimler, Volvo, 100 here, 100 there, traveling back and forth from the ports to our inland ports. We're looking at electric harbor craft. We've already got a couple electric tugboats going in Southern California. We're looking at electric ferries, transferring people back and forth. They just got back from Europe, looking at electric ferries out of Denmark. We're also testing right now an alternative fuel ocean liner, not just diesel, but methanol. Just got back from Denmark too on that issue. So there's a lot of new technologies in transportation, not just with vehicles, but with trucks. At the ports, we're right now working with the ports on putting a rule in Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach, two busiest ports in the United States, transport almost 40% of our cargo across our United States out to all the states. We're looking at all the cargo handling equipment, the cranes, everything that lifts the containers off the ships, the millions of containers that come in every year, and electrify that so that our communities down there in Long Beach, Wilmington, Los Angeles. The kids that play soccer, they like you and I when we were kids, we were playing. I grew up in Miami where it was clean air. I didn't realize these kids here, Clarence, I had in Miami in 10 years, one kid in my team with asthma. Here in Southern California, we play our games near freeways, roads that have average daily traffic of 100,000, 200,000 vehicles and trucks. I had 3 or 4 kids a couple years in a row with asthma on my team, inhalers at every practice. Be careful watching that kid when he started breathing. Might have been an asthma attack. At the games, they couldn't play. So it's personal now. This is personal to me that I'm not going to drive a dirty car, and my city's not, because our community where those kids play, and some kids have respiratory elements, or seniors, elderly people, even animals, I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to have clean vehicles, save money, save clean air, save our environment. If you believe in climate crisis, we'll reduce that GHGs. And really, let me tell you one last story. I talked to some of our officers these last several months. I rode along with them last week. I said, tell me, guys, is it working? Is it not? And he said, tell me, you have any pursuits? When it was raining here a couple months ago, I had one of those weird rains. They were in a pursuit on a Pasadena freeway, which you're lucky to go 60 miles an hour. It zigzags. They were going 120 miles an hour on that freeway. And he said, Mike, council member, we would not have engaged in that pursuit had it been the other cars we had, because it just wouldn't handle like this car. And another officer told me they chased a car with LAPD. They caught him. And when the guy got out of the car, they said, how'd you catch me? He goes, I have a Tesla. He said, what? So they're excited about these. They're excited about these vehicles, Clarence.
Well, I appreciate the passion and the commitment to both enterprise mobility as well as South Pasadena, California. And I will tell you, both of you are talking about the things that are happening, and you're modeling it. I've had the chance to go to St. Louis and visit the headquarters of Enterprise Mobility a couple of times, and they actually are using electric vehicles, from Mustangs to Rivens and to other cars as well. And it's just admirable. Now, Dain, the one thing that you and I got to figure out how we got to get together to get to South Pasadena so we could see all this innovative stuff that's happening, because our goal at the National League of Cities is to get the public sector and the private sector to create solutions together. And you all are 2 great examples of how we can show how public and private industry can work to make things better for our community in terms of sustainability and air quality and water quality, creating jobs. And I got to say, in this month of gratitude, I want to thank you guys, because what you are doing is truly making a difference for our nation and for our kids. So appreciate both of you. Councilmember, I told Dain at the beginning you were going to be the star of the show. So he was ready. And I want to thank you for what you're doing, Councilmember Cacciotti, for what you're doing. And Dain, Giesie out of Enterprise, what you're doing. Together, I think we got a real good partnership going, and we're going to show this and share it with our members. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Clarence, maybe let me leave you with this, which is no government entity wants to be first. We that's well established in this discussion. What our experience is, they are happy to share ideas, and they are happy to share with other government entities about what they've learned and how to be successful in their endeavors. So it takes organizations like South Pasadena to take this step and to create success so that others can learn from them and then accelerate the adoption of these new cleaner technologies. And as more and more as more and more work towards accelerating that because of success stories, more and more private organizations, including multiple OEMs and charging and power and all the other really, really necessary parts of this industry, will continue to invest so that we get to a point of critical mass where it just makes sense.
Well, man, you're sounding like Mayor Giesie one day. We may have to get you. What city do you live in? You live in St. Louis? Because I got to tell Mayor Jones to watch out there. But But no, you are right. And I think I've always had the philosophy, and as I've been on both sides, working for corporate America and now for NLC and a former elected, good public policy is when it's developed with the public and private sector. You can dream of something in the private sector and bring it to us as electeds, and we're like, that's not going to work. But if we say, how can we make it work together? We can really get good solutions. And you all have done that. And I'm very proud of the partnership with Enterprise Mobility and South Pasadena. And Councilman, I really do want to come and visit and see what you have done. And I bet I can get some folks from Enterprise Mobility to come with me. So I'm going to work on that.
Particularly in the month of February. It's cold here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm in Florida right now, so I'm good. I'm good. All right, y'all. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clarence. Thanks, Dain.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.